My name is Lily Jensen, and I used to believe that loyalty could excuse anything. That if someone shared your blood or married into it, you owed them the benefit of the doubt. I don't believe that anymore. Especially not after what Jennifer did to me. I had just come out of surgery. A bad car accident, multiple fractures, and 3 weeks in a hospital bed barely able to breathe without help. Kevin, my husband, was there every day. He held my hand when I couldn't move, read to me when I couldn't stay awake, managed the kids, the bills, the world, and he let Jennifer, his sister, into our home to help. That was his first mistake. But mine was worse. I trusted her. It was a rainy Tuesday afternoon when my nurse handed me my phone. "There's a call," she whispered gently. "It's your sister-in-law." Jennifer's voice came through the speaker like acid dressed in sugar. "Well," she said, "now it's my turn to live like you do. Luxury suits me, Lily." My stomach dropped. She didn't sound sorry. She sounded proud. I opened my banking app, and the breath that had taken weeks to come back vanished again. The 90,000 gone. Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Cartier, private driver services, spa retreats, a weekend villa in Malibu. It wasn't just theft. It was a celebration on my dime. While I was unconscious in a hospital bed, I stared at the screen. I wanted to cry. But I couldn't afford to fall apart. Not now. Jennifer had stolen my credit card, and she had no idea what was coming next. "Relax," Jennifer said on the phone. "You weren't even conscious. I found your card in your purse while visiting. You should be thanking me for helping Kevin with the kids." My fingers gripped the blanket. "You spent 90 grand, I said softly. "Helping," she laughed. "You always have everything, Lily. The job, the house, the perfect marriage. I just thought this was fair. Consider it compensation. Emotional damages or whatever. It wasn't just theft. It was entitlement. A declaration that she deserved my life more than I did. I didn't hide anything," she added. "So technically, I didn't steal it. You admitted you took the card. Don't get dramatic." She spat. "Kevin will believe me. He knows how emotional you get. Besides, you can't even prove it." I looked up at the ceiling. The same white ceiling I'd stared at every day while fighting to recover. My body weak, my bones cracked. But my mind? My mind was sharp. I said, keeping my tone steady. "Thank you." She paused. "For what?" "For being so clear. This has been really helpful." I ended the call, then pressed the nurse button. A few minutes later, Linda walked in with her soft voice and steady hands. "Everything okay?" "Lily, Linda, you mentioned something last week. The new hospital cameras, they record audio too, right?" She nodded. "Can you have security pull the footage from when Jennifer visited me? Every visit, every second." She blinked. "Of course. Do you want us to contact someone?" "Yes," I whispered, my voice finally steady again. "Call Officer Monroe. It's time." The morning after Jennifer's call, Officer Monroe arrived at my hospital room. He was a calm, steady man with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Can you walk me through everything from the beginning?" he asked gently. I took a deep breath, the pain in my body still raw, but my mind clear. I was in a serious accident, unconscious for weeks. While I was fighting to survive, Jennifer, my sister-in-law, was sneaking into my room. She found my credit card, took pictures of it, and then went on a reckless spending spree. Officer Monroe nodded and took detailed notes. "We've received your request to review the hospital's security footage," he said. Hours later, the video played on the screen. There she was, Jennifer, entering my room, glancing around as if she owned the place. She rummaged through my purse, pulled out my credit card, took photos with her phone, and slipped the card back without a hint of hesitation. The worst part wasn't just the theft. It was the way she sat beside me, smiling, taking selfies while I lay unconscious. My heart twisted as the footage rolled. I swallowed hard, fighting back tears that had nothing to do with the pain in my broken body. Just then, Kevin, my husband, burst through the door. His face went pale as he watched the video. "She told me she was helping by watching the kids." He whispered, voice cracking. But she took everything. He sat down next to me, holding my hand tightly. "I can't believe she'd do this," he said. I nodded, tired but resolute. "This ends now." The days turned into weeks filled with calls, police reports, and meetings. Jennifer didn't stop. She spread lies, blaming me for being jealous, accusing me of making up stories. But with video proof and her own phone confession, the truth was undeniable. At court, Jennifer appeared confident at first. Her smile faded as the prosecutor laid out the evidence, the hospital security footage, her phone call admitting guilt, the $90,000 in stolen charges. She tried to claim it was a misunderstanding, that I'd given her permission, but the judge wasn't buying it. "You exploited a vulnerable woman," he said sternly. "This crime will not be excused." Jennifer was sentenced to 19 months in prison, ordered to repay everything, and face years of probation. She walked away from the courtroom stripped of her arrogance, replaced with a scared, hollow look. Outside the courthouse, her mother approached us, eyes red from crying. She admitted she'd ignored the warning signs for too long. We all had, but now the healing could begin. That was the moment I realized some betrayals run deeper than money. They cut through the heart and take time to mend. But justice, when served, is the first step to peace. After the courtroom drama ended, the real work began. Not the legal battles or the police reports, but the slow, painful process of healing. Every morning I woke up and reminded myself I survived. I am still here. And I am not defined by what Jennifer did. Physically, my body was still fragile. Walking felt like climbing mountains. But emotionally, I felt something new, a spark of strength I hadn't known I possessed. Nurse Linda became more than a caregiver. She became a pillar of support. She listened without judgment. She brought small comforts, chamomile tea, soft music, a warm smile. One afternoon, she said softly, "Sometimes the deepest wounds aren't visible. They're the ones that silence us." Her words echoed in my heart. I was no longer alone in this. Kevin stood by me, quietly carrying his own pain. He struggled to reconcile the sister he loved with the woman who had betrayed us. But he never wavered. His hand in mine was a promise that together we would get through this. Slowly, I started to take back control. Changing passwords, freezing cards, closing accounts. Each phone call was a cut from the past. But with every click, I reclaimed a piece of my life. Friends and strangers reached out after hearing my story. Messages of support, of shared pain, of hope. It reminded me that even in darkness, there are lights waiting to guide us home. Some days, the betrayal still haunted me. The images, the lies, the shattered trust. But with each new sunrise, I felt stronger, more determined. I realized that healing isn't linear. It's messy, slow, and deeply personal. And most importantly, it's possible. With Jennifer behind bars, I thought the worst was over. But healing meant more than justice. It meant rebuilding the pieces of my life shattered by betrayal. I started small. A morning walk. A cup of coffee. A quiet moment to breathe without fear. Slowly, the world stopped feeling like a prison. I reconnected with the parts of myself I'd lost. My passions. My voice. I began journaling, writing down every thought, every feeling. Each word was a step forward. Kevin and I found new rhythms. We talked openly about the pain, the trust broken, and the hope for the future. He held me when I cried, and I held him when he felt lost. Together, we were stronger than ever. I reached out to support groups, women who had faced betrayal and found their way back. Their stories inspired me. Their courage fueled mine. I even started volunteering at the hospital where I healed, helping others who were broken, teaching them that recovery is possible. That pain does not define us. But the biggest change came one quiet evening. Sitting by the window, watching the sunset paint the sky, I realized I was no longer a victim. I was a survivor, and survivors don't just heal. They reclaim. The days grew longer, and with them, my resolve. I started saying yes to life again, inviting friends over for dinner, accepting invitations I once declined, dancing in the rain without worrying about the past. Rebuilding trust was harder, not just with others, but with myself. Could I open my heart again? Could I believe in people when betrayal still lingered? Slowly, I learned it was okay to be cautious, to set boundaries that protected me, to speak up when something felt wrong. Kevin stood by me, steady and patient. Together we attended counseling, untangling the knots left by Jennifer's betrayal. It wasn't easy, but every session was a brick in the foundation of our renewed life. One afternoon, as I walked through the park, a stranger smiled and said, "You carry yourself like someone who's been through fire and come out stronger." I smiled back, because I had. I had lost a sister-in-law, but I had found myself. And that was worth more than any stolen credit card or shattered trust. Looking back, I realize how much I've grown. The betrayal could have broken me, but it didn't. It made me stronger, wiser, more aware of my own worth. I learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about trust, respect, and kindness. Not everyone deserves a place in your life, no matter their name or relation. Now I wake up with hope, not fear. I plan for a future full of possibilities, not anchored by past pain. I focus on what I can control: my health, my happiness, my peace. Kevin and I have talked about starting a family someday, not because it's expected, but because it feels right. And most importantly, I've learned to forgive, not for Jennifer, but for myself, to let go of bitterness and make room for healing. I'm sharing this story not just for me, but for anyone who's ever been betrayed, hurt, or left behind. You are not alone. You can rise. You can reclaim your life. Thank you for listening to my journey. If this story touched you, please share it. Let's build a community of strength and support together. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories about courage, resilience, and hope. Weeks passed, and each day felt like turning a new page. One evening, Kevin and I sat quietly on the porch, watching the stars emerge. "I never thought I'd see you this calm again," he said softly. I smiled. "Me neither." He reached for my hand. "We're in this together, whatever comes next." I squeezed his hand back. For the first time, I truly believed that. The scars inside me didn't vanish overnight. There were nights I'd wake up, heart pounding, memories flooding in. But now, I had tools to face them. Therapy sessions, open talks with Kevin, journaling my fears and hopes. One day, my phone buzzed. A message from a stranger who'd heard my story. "Your strength inspired me to leave a toxic situation." My heart swelled. This journey wasn't just mine anymore. It was ours. At the antique shop, I found new purpose. Teaching others to see value where it was overlooked. Sharing stories behind each piece. Stories of endurance, history, and beauty. One afternoon, as I helped a young woman identify a rare Victorian necklace, I realized life is about the connections we make. Not just the ones we're born into, but the ones we choose. Kevin leaned in, whispering, "Ready for the next chapter." I nodded, more than ever. The road ahead wasn't perfect, but it was mine, and that made all the difference. After the storm of betrayal and heartbreak, life settled into a new rhythm. Rebuilding trust was never easy, especially with those closest to you. Kevin and I made a promise. Honesty above all, no secrets, no hiding pain. Every doubt, every fear laid bare and faced together. One afternoon, Kevin said, "I know it's hard to trust again. I'm here. No matter what." His words felt like a balm. I realized that trust is fragile, but with care it can grow stronger than before. Meanwhile, I reconnected with family members who had stayed silent during the chaos. Some apologized. Some distanced themselves. I accepted what was and let go of what wasn't. At work, my passion for antiques flourished. I expanded the shop, started workshops, and built a community around shared love for history and art. One day, a young woman approached me. "Your story gave me courage to start my own business," she said. Tears welled in my eyes. This was the healing I never expected. I also learned the importance of self-care. Taking moments for myself, setting boundaries, and saying no when needed. Most importantly, I forgave, not to forget the past, but to free myself from its hold. The future was uncertain, but it was mine to shape, and for the first time that felt like enough. With trust slowly rebuilding, I began to open myself to new possibilities. The pain from the past still lingered, but it no longer defined me. I enrolled in an art history seminar at the local college. It felt good to be a student again. Not because I needed a degree, but because learning sparked joy. Kevin supported every step, cheering me on quietly but fiercely. He reminded me, growth isn't linear. It's okay to take your time. One evening, while organizing the shop, I found an old letter tucked inside a vintage book. It was a reminder from my grandmother, encouraging me to follow my passion no matter what. That night I wrote in my journal, "I am more than my past. I am the architect of my future." I started hosting small community events at the shop, tea tastings, history talks, and restoration workshops. Each gathering felt like weaving a new tapestry of connection and hope. One visitor told me, "Your strength gives me hope." And that made all the struggle worthwhile. As winter turned to spring, I felt a quiet confidence blooming inside. I was no longer just surviving, I was thriving. With each passing day, I felt more grounded, more whole. The shadows of betrayal had less hold on me. I dedicated time to meditation and quiet reflection, learning to listen to my own needs rather than just others' expectations. At the shop, my passion deepened. Every antique held a story, much like my own. Preserving the past helped me cherish the present. Kevin and I talked about our dreams, not the ones others imposed, but the ones we chose. One afternoon, I received a letter from a young woman in another state. She thanked me for sharing my story, saying it gave her courage to leave a toxic relationship. That message touched me deeply. My journey wasn't just about healing myself. It was about lighting the way for others. Sometimes, the hardest battles lead to the brightest futures. And sometimes, the family we build with others becomes stronger than the one we were born into. I no longer feared the future. I embraced it, with open arms, open heart, and an unshakable sense of self. The days became chapters of growth, each filled with new challenges and victories. No longer weighed down by past betrayals, I felt free to dream again. I began mentoring young women passionate about antiques and history, sharing not only knowledge, but the courage to stand firm in their own paths. Kevin surprised me with a small gift, a journal bound in leather, embossed with my initials. He said, "For the stories you've yet to write." That simple gesture reminded me how far I'd come. From darkness to light, from silence to voice. One evening, as we watched the sunset paint the sky, I whispered, "I'm ready for whatever comes next." Because now I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. I was reclaiming my life, on my terms. With the weight of the past finally lifting, I found space for joy. Simple things, morning sunlight streaming through the shop window, the smell of fresh coffee, laughter shared with friends. I reconnected with old friends I had pushed away during the turmoil. We shared stories, healed wounds, and built new memories. One afternoon, a local artist asked if I'd like to collaborate on a community art project. The idea of blending history, art, and connection sparked excitement I hadn't felt in years. Kevin and I planned a weekend getaway. Not to escape, but to celebrate our resilience, our love, our future. At the heart of it all was gratitude for the lessons learned, the strength gained, and the family we chose to keep close. Sometimes, losing everything means finding so much more. Each new day felt like a fresh page waiting to be written. The past no longer a shadow, but a lesson guiding me forward. I launched a podcast, sharing stories of resilience and rebuilding, connecting with others who faced betrayal and found strength. Listeners reached out, thanking me for their courage to heal. Their voices reminded me we're never truly alone. Kevin and I talked late into the night about dreams we'd dared to silence. Traveling, creating, loving, freely, without fear. One morning, I stood in the shop, sunlight warming the wooden floors, surrounded by history and hope, and I smiled. Because this life, my life, was mine to write. Life can sometimes break us in ways we never expected. Betrayal from those closest to us cuts the deepest wounds. But in those moments of darkness, there is also a choice to stay broken or to rise. I chose to rise, not because it was easy, but because I learned that my worth is not defined by others' actions or opinions. It is defined by the love I give myself and the courage I carry forward. If you're going through your own battles, know this: you are not alone. You are stronger than you think. Your story is not over. Hold on to your truth. Set your boundaries. Find your people. And keep moving forward, one step at a time. Thank you for listening to my journey here on Telling Story with me. If it touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let's build a community where real stories bring real hope. Together we heal. Together we rise.